All right, let's dive into the fascinating world of RNAi therapy and the company making waves, Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals. We're going to dissect a really detailed company analysis report for investors and figure out just what makes this biotech company tick.
And, maybe even uncover a potential investment opportunity for you. But listen, this isn't just about boring financial data. We're going to explore some really cutting-edge science, talk about their audacious goals, and even get a glimpse into their company culture.
What's interesting about Arrowhead is they actually have this unusual origin story. They started way back in 1989 as a nanotechnology company, not focused on RNAi at all.
Really? That's quite a pivot. What caused them to make that shift?
It was actually a really strategic move back in 2007, led by Dr. Christopher Anzalone. They really saw the massive potential of RNAi technology and decided to go all in, streamlining their focus, divesting non-core assets to become purely an RNAi therapeutics company.
Wow, so we're talking about the potential to target and shut down the specific genes causing a disease. I mean, that's game-changing. Could you break down how RNAi works? Absolutely. RNAi is basically like this amazing cellular defense system. It uses these small interfering RNA molecules, we call them sernins, to target and destroy specific messenger RNAs, or mRNAs. And these mRNAs carry instructions from our genes to make proteins. So if you can silence the right genes, you can stop the production of those disease-causing proteins.
So it's like taking out the blueprints before the faulty protein can even be built. That level of precision really is incredible and why RNAi is so revolutionary. Now, Arrowhead claims to have taken it to the next level with their proprietary TRIMEM platform.
Right, TRIMM, which stands for Targeted RNA Molecule, really does elevate RNAi. It's not just silencing any gene, it's achieving that silencing with incredible efficiency and laser-like specificity. So that means, minimizing those off-target effects, the unintended interactions with other genes, and also increasing the duration of the therapeutic effect.
Okay, so that's huge. From an investment perspective, these features are what makes Arrowhead's approach potentially safer, more effective, and therefore more attractive to investors, right?
Exactly. They're looking to create therapies that are more potent, longer lasting, and with fewer side effects, which is the holy grail of drug development.
And they've set this really ambitious goal, 20 in 25, meaning 20 drugs either in trials or on the market by 2025. Now, that's ambitious, but looking at what they have in the pipeline, I can see why they're so confident. Let's highlight a few of those candidates.
Sure. So one that's showing a lot of promise is Plozasiran. It's currently in phase 3 trials for severe hypertriglyceridemia, or SHTG for short, and familial chylomicronemia syndrome, or FCS. These are serious lipid disorders that can actually lead to pancreatitis. And it's worth noting that Plozasiran received breakthrough therapy designation from the FDA, highlighting its potential to address this critical unmet need.
Wow, so it seems like they're on the fast track to potentially getting a blockbuster drug to market. Strategically, are they focusing on any particular disease areas?
Well, they do have candidates for a variety of areas, like pulmonary and neurodegenerative diseases. But their pipeline really shows us focus on cardiometabolic disorders.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, that allows them to build a deeper understanding of those underlying mechanisms and create a portfolio of treatments that can address different aspects of these diseases. But let's talk about money. Does Arrowhead actually have the resources to support this ambitious 20 and 25 goal?
They really do. Their recent financial moves have been impressive. Take their 2024 deals, for instance. The licensing agreement with Sarepta Therapeutics brought in $825 million up front, plus the potential for billions more in milestones and royalties. And then there's their $500 million credit facility from Sixth Street, providing long-term financial stability.
Wow, that's a lot of financial firepower. It sounds like they're well positioned to fund their R&D and maybe even expand through acquisitions or new programs.
Absolutely. It gives them a significant runway and flexibility to really pursue their growth strategy. But beyond just the numbers, there's another aspect that I think investors should find really attractive, and that's their focus on building a strong company culture.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So they really emphasize these core values: patient focus, diversity, innovation, and integrity. And, these might sound like just buzzwords, but a company that truly embodies these values tends to attract and retain top talent, fostering this culture of excellence that drives long-term success.
I like that. It's not just about profits, it's about purpose, and I think that really resonates with investors these days. But even with all these strengths, they can't be operating in a vacuum, right? What's the competitive landscape look like for RNAi therapies?
Well, the RNAi field is definitely getting more competitive. With big players like Alnylam, which is now part of Novo Nordisk, and Ionis, it's really a race to bring these revolutionary therapies to market.
So how does Arrowhead stack up against these giants? What gives them an edge in this RNAi showdown?
Well, we'll have to find out in part 2 of our Arrowhead deep dive. Okay, so we left off with a bit of a cliffhanger Arrowhead going up against some of the biggest names in RNAi therapy. Alnylam, Dicerna, now a part of Novo Nordisk and Ionis. It sounds like a real David and Goliath situation, but you know David won that fight. What makes Arrowhead think they can take on these industry heavyweights?
It's not really about brute force in this industry. It's more about having a smart strategy and standing out from the crowd. Arrowhead actually has a couple of key advantages that I think really set them apart, and their TL platform is a major one.
Yeah, we talked about Trium a bit earlier, but let's dig a little deeper. What makes it so special? How's it different from what their competitors are using? Well, let's take Alnylam's platform as an example, for instance. They've had a lot of success with Onpattro, which treats this rare nerve disorder. But Onpattro needs to be given intravenously through an IV, and that can be really inconvenient for patients, not to mention expensive. Arrowhead's TRIM technology is designed for subcutaneous administration. So basically, it's just a simple injection. And they're aiming for longer-lasting effects, so patients might not need to get doses as often.
Wow, that's a game changer when it comes to making these therapies more practical. It's one thing to develop a groundbreaking drug, but if it's difficult or a hassle for patients to actually use, it really limits its impact, right?
Absolutely, and it's not just about convenience for the patient either. TRIM's longer-lasting effects could also make it more cost-effective overall, which is really important in healthcare these days.
So TRIM is potentially a game changer not only for patients, but also for the people paying for these treatments.
Yeah.
But what about Dicerna? They're a part of Novo Nordisk now, so they have a ton of resources and a lot of expertise behind them.
They certainly do. And their Galaxy technology is a strong contender. It also focuses on subcutaneous administration and getting the drug to where it needs to go more effectively. However, Arrowhead believes that their TRIM platform will actually be more durable in the long run, and that could mean even longer intervals between doses.
It's fascinating how all these companies are trying to solve the same problem, but each with their own slightly different approach.
Yeah, and that's what makes the RNAi space so exciting right now. It's this dynamic race, not just to be the first one there, but to develop the platform that really works best.
All right, now there's one more big player we can't forget about, Ionis. They're real pioneers when it comes to antisense oligonucleotide therapies. How does Arrowhead measure up against their experience and track record?
Well, Ionis has been around for a long time, that's for sure. And they have a number of drugs that are already approved and on the market. Their technology is based on a different mechanism than RNAi, though. They're also trying to silence genes. But they do it using single-stranded DNA molecules instead of double-stranded RNA.
Oh, so it's a whole different approach. Does that give either of them an advantage?
You know, both approaches have their strengths and weaknesses. Ionis's technology has a proven track record, as we said, but it might not be as effective for targeting certain kinds of genes. Arrowhead believes that RNAi, particularly with their TRIM platform, is more versatile and could potentially target a much wider range of those disease-causing genes.
It's like a clash of the titans, a seasoned veteran versus a cutting-edge innovator.
And at the end of the day, investors have to decide where they want to place their bets.
So to recap, Arrowhead is up against some tough competition, but they're not shying away from the challenge. They've got this unique technology in TRIM, their pipeline is diverse and really promising, they've got solid financials, and they seem committed to meeting the needs of patients and those who pay for these treatments. But what does all this mean for our listeners?
Well, if you're interested in companies that are pushing the boundaries of RNAi therapy and really trying to make a difference in patients' lives, I think Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals is definitely worth a closer look. Their journey is really just getting started. And the next few years are going to be crucial for them to achieve their goals and really establish themselves as a leader in this revolutionary field.
I'll be watching closely, that's for sure. And to our listeners, we'd love to know what you think. Is Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals a company you'd invest in? What are some of the things about their approach that stand out to you? Let us know. This has been such an interesting deep dive into the world of Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals and the future of RNAi therapy. But you know what? We're not done yet. We still need to dig into how Arrowhead measures up against the competition. So buckle up, because in part 3, we're going head-to-head with Alnylam, Dicerna, and Ionis. And we'll see who comes out on top. Okay, so it's time for the final showdown. Arrowhead versus the giants of RNAi. Alnylam, Dicerna, now under the Novo Nordisk umbrella, and Ionis. They're all fighting for dominance in this exciting new field. But what makes Arrowhead think they can come out on top?
Well, they're definitely not afraid of a challenge.
So how do they plan to stand out from the crowd? What are their key differentiators?
We've talked a lot about their TRIM platform.
Yeah, we
have, and that's really where they shine.
All right, so let's break it down. How does TRIM actually stack up against the competition?
Okay, let's take Alnylam, for example.
Hmm.
They've had tremendous success with Onpattro for that rare nerve disorder.
Right.
But the thing is, patients need to go in for IV infusions to get Onpattro.
Yeah.
And that can be a real pain, literally.
And expensive.
Exactly. It's not always practical.
Right.
But with Arrowhead's TRIM technology, they're aiming for subcutaneous administration.
So just a simple injection.
Exactly. Much easier for patients.
And potentially longer-lasting effects, right?
That's the goal, fewer trips to the doctor, which could really improve patient compliance.
Absolutely. It's like you can have the most amazing drug in the world, but if it's a hassle for patients to actually use it, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right, exactly.
So TRIM could be a game changer in terms of making these therapies more practical and accessible.
Absolutely. And there's the cost factor, too. Longer-lasting effects could mean lower costs overall, which is really important in healthcare, as we all know.
Right. Everyone's looking for ways to reduce healthcare costs. So TRIM could be a win for patients and for payers. Now, what about Dicerna? They're a part of Novo Nordisk now.
Yeah, a powerhouse in the pharmaceutical industry.
So they've got a lot of resources behind them.
Definitely.
And their Galaxy technology seems pretty impressive, too.
It is. It's also focused on subcutaneous administration and improved delivery. But Arrowhead thinks that TRIM might be even more durable in the long term, so patients could go even longer between doses.
It's incredible to see all these different companies trying to crack the same code, but each with their own unique twist.
Yeah, and that's what makes the RNAi space so dynamic. You have this really interesting mix of competition and collaboration.
All right, now we've got one more major player to consider, Ionis. They've been around forever, it seems like.
Pioneers in the field, yeah.
How does Arrowhead compare to them?
Well, Ionis has a long history, and they've got a lot of approved drugs already on the market.
Right.
But their technology works a bit differently than RNAi. Yeah, they use something called antisense oligonucleotides.
Antisense oligonucleotides.
Yeah, they're single-stranded DNA molecules.
Okay.
RNAi uses double-stranded RNA.
So it's a whole different approach to gene silencing.
Exactly.
Huh. Interesting. Does that give either company a leg up?
It's hard to say definitively.
Yeah.
Both approaches have their strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
Ionis has a proven track record,
Yeah.
but their technology might not be as good at targeting certain kinds of genes.
I see.
Arrowhead believes that RNAi, specifically their TRIM platform, is more adaptable and could potentially target a broader range of genes.
It's fascinating to see these different approaches playing out. It's like, who's going to win this race? The seasoned veteran or the up-and-coming innovator?
Well, that's what makes this industry so exciting.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Arrowhead is in a really competitive space, but they seem to have a lot going for them. TRIM is a very promising platform. They have a diverse and exciting pipeline. They're in a good financial position, and they seem genuinely committed to making a difference for patients. So what's the bottom line for our listeners?
Well, I think Arrowhead is definitely a company to watch. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with RNAi therapy. And if they can achieve their goals, they could really become a major player in this field.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see how things unfold. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from Arrowhead's unique origins to their bold vision for the future of RNAi. But it's time for us to wrap things up. As always, we encourage you to do your own research and due diligence and decide for yourself if Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals is the right investment for you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, happy investing.